Hello and welcome to another internet teenage church thing. I thought for a change of scenery we could go along Chapman's Peak and you guys could join me for the drive while we do the devotions. So, today's devotion is kind of a challenging one, but I thought I'd give you a bit of a personal story as a segue into this topic. When I was around 12 or 13, I was probably one of the greatest and most prolific complainers of my generation, really. I'd always been a complainer, but I probably reached the pinnacle of my complainingness as a person around 12 or 13. And I would complain always about two things. The first thing, I'm bored. Mom, I'm bored. And I'd say it with that same intonation. I'm bored. Dad, I'm bored. Stacy, my sister, I'm bored. And I would make my boredom their problem, which is completely bizarre in every possible way. The second thing that I complain about is there's no food. I would open the fridge hoping expectantly to see like a slice of cheesecake or something delicious for me to snack on, but to no avail. There was always food, make no mistake, but it wasn't the food that I wanted. I would complain about everything. And over the years, I've definitely improved. I'm slightly less of a complainer, which is good news. But I still complain. Everyone complains from time to time. Fortunately, we are not in bad company because the Israelites were also huge complainers. Mind you, they had much better reason to complain. So let's take a look at our reading for today, and we can do a bit of discussion after looking at this reading.
Exodus chapter 16. The whole Israelite community set out from Elim and came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had come out of Egypt. In the desert the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted, but you have brought us out into the desert to starve this entire assembly to death." Then the Lord said to Moses, "I will rain down bread from heaven to you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough food for that day. In this way I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. On the 6th day they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days." So Moses and Aaron said to the Israelites, "In the evening you will know that it was the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we that you should grumble against us?" Moses also said, "You will know that it was the Lord when he gives you meat to eat in the evening, and all the bread you want in the morning, because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we? You are not grumbling against us, but against the Lord."
So you can see that the Israelites were in a bit of a bind. God had really provided for them in a major way, but being in the desert for 40 years, that's rough. That's not easy to handle. And they began quickly to complain about their situation, specifically the fact that, it started getting a bit repetitive, having the same meal every day, the heavenly manna. And that's definitely a bit of a challenge, But I think in the midst of that situation, where the Israelites were in the desert, God was trying to teach them something important. And it was that they needed to trust him. Your circumstances are not always going to be ideal. Again, this year is a perfect example of that. But in the midst of this kind of desert, wandering the desert experience, God is calling us to trust him in the same way that he called the Israelites to trust him. In fact, he made it really challenging for them by only providing enough food for each day, or commanding them to take enough food for each day. And in that way, the Israelites were forced to trust God. So let's wind back to when David was 12 or 13 to wrap this up. Around that time, I made the decision, with my parents prompting me, to go on a mission trip with our church, which was really exciting. I was really excited to have the option of going to Mozambique. I went to North Mozambique to a town called Lushinga. There is a cyclist in front of me and I don't want to run them down, so I'm going to take it very slowly. Blind corner, not fun. Okay, we dodged the cyclist. Good news. Yeah, so I went to North Mozambique, to a place called Lushenga, and it was one of the most life-changing experiences for me. And it really showed me that the little cocoon that I was living in Fishhook wasn't the way that everyone lived their lives. And it really challenged my attitude of complaining. And it showed me that I had a lot to be grateful for, a lot to be thankful for, and that God had really provided for me in an incredible way. You know, in this situation with the coronavirus, it's very easy to spend time moaning and complaining. Oh, things are difficult. I don't like this. Yeah, it sucks. Let's be honest, it sucks. It's not a great situation. But the option is to complain and moan about how horrible things are. No one likes that person, for the record. And that's not the way that God designed us. Or secondly, we can be positive and be thankful for what God has done. You know, I think the Israelites would have been a lot happier if they had the perspective of realizing, sure, God has really provided for me. Things were difficult. I was in a really challenging situation, but miraculously, you know, God saved us. So I think that's the thing to take away today, guys, is that, you know, no matter what happens, we can trust God to provide for us on the daily. And as a result, we need to be grateful and we need to be thankful, and we need to remind ourselves of His goodness instead of complaining. So the next time you moan about the fact that there's nothing in the fridge, or that you're quote unquote bored like me, remember that you do have a lot to be thankful for. And I'm enjoying one of those things right now, because it is one of the most stunningly gorgeous days here on Chapman's Peak Drive. And I'm yet to run down a cyclist. So, win-win.